Hi, I'm Ikea, and for today's video, I want to ramble on for a bit about how to do a Nemesis run, as a lot of people I know struggle with it. And we'll go through a Nemesis run. I'm just going to run all the way through it. We're going to keep it uncut. That's also why it is a rambling talk. And this is also kind of in lieu of the finishing off the descent guide, as that's been postponed time upon time, as I wanted to get it done halfway last season, but then a bunch of things happened, some in real life, some, for instance, the global events returning in Division 1, which took up a lot of time. And now as well, of course, a new season and new things that need to get done first, like updating the build collection or updating some of the DPS tables. But just to kind of have a somewhat of a guide out there already, we'll do a Nemesis run here. I'm going to go and do so in Envy, which is one of the better rotations. I would consider the best rotation, especially for Nemesis runs. And we're going to go through, and I'm just going to explain as we go. Timestamp-wise, I'll timestamp each and every loop, and I'll try to actually include as well where some interesting information happens just behind it, because we're going to talk about some of the skills, some of the weapon picks, and stuff like that. And I'll try to do so in separate loops and kind of link them like that. So yeah, let's go get first set up by talking about Envy for a second, and then we'll go into the run. And before we actually start the run, I want to kind of talk about Envy, which is one of the better pools. As we have it here, the pools rotate every 3 days, and Envy is about to run out. So we are doing this video now. You can always come to any of the descent gates. One is here, of course, at the castle. One is up here east of the White House. When you come to these, you can actually press T, as it says there, to see the talent pool. On controller, of course, it shows a different button. And you can already see what talents are in here. And especially what makes Envy great is that there are a lot of good yellow picks where we can extract some damage. So for instance, we have some Sadist, Ignited, Eyeless, all of those can add to our damage. And also CC for us, together with Trauma being here, which is very handy for a Nemesis run. Then as well, we have a good selection of exotics. That matters a lot, as well as here, any of the following, including Plague, Agonizing, Incessant, or Bullet Hell. Especially, well, Plague, Agonizing, and Bullet Hell can be really good for Nemesis run. For deeper runs, yeah, Incessant Chatter is kind of unbeatable. And of course, as we showed actually in a different video with how to Envy, and if you're interested in how to do deep runs with Envy, that goes over that. Today, we're going to be specifically kind of discussing a Nemesis run. But also, while we're doing so, I'm going to explain a bunch of mechanics that some pertain to the Nemesis, some just in general. But actually, all of the exotics here are decent, and especially if we get our pick after loop 1, we're very likely to have either one of the 3 that we want for Nemesis, because Plague can be really good for that fight, Agonizing and Bullet Hell, all 3 can be really good for the Nemesis fight. Incessant can be good for deeper runs, but not so much for Nemesis fight. Payment in Kind, we wouldn't generally want to pick until we're kind of set up for it. And Liberty or Death, while a little bit of damage isn't that worthwhile, but when we get a 3 pick, it's very unlikely for it to be just Payment in Kind, Liberty, and Incessant Chatter, so that we don't get any of the preferred picks. So that's what Envy really is especially good for the Nemesis run. We will likely get a decent exotic out of it, and then as well, the reds that we have here are pretty good. And what we generally want to do with our reds as well, of course, is diversify, and that is allowed here pretty well, because yeah, we can go with... what we generally do is Surgical, Allegro, Strained, Obliterate, and then for here, Unhinged is generally viewed as kind of a trap, because we don't actually have Steady-Handed to offset it with, Steady-Handed or Braced, so we generally don't go with that. Our general other picks will either, if we have Agonizing, we'll generally go with Critical plus either Pummel or Rifleman. So you can kind of go in several routes, although Vigilance can also go in there. So yeah, let's go and actually first, before we go, I want to point out that yeah, I have all of the upgrades on this account. I have all of the things that you can buy. Going to Wally and actually buying the permanent upgrades is very worthwhile. Especially that 4th pick, which is pretty cheap. You do want to get that one pretty early. Then as well, getting all of those stat upgrades, which I can't show here because I've already have them, but getting crit chance, armor and kill, health on kill, those three are very valuable. Getting some of those handling ones as well, because yeah, for some of the weapons, it helps quite a lot to have that, just that 10% and accuracy and stability. Even that 10% hazard protection can kind of save you at times. So it is very important to buy those. The credits one is one that I would wait for a little bit later, because that one is very expensive and is only the in-run credits. It does help. It gives you, in effect, what it gives you is one extra reroll in a run or per loop. So that does help out a little bit. Having talked about all that, let's go get started. And actually, one thing I want to show here as well, you can actually just from anywhere, because you don't have to go to the gates to get started there. You can actually from anywhere just fast travel to Descent. And yeah, we'll start here at the very start. As we come into it, of course, we have to initialize. If you're actually wondering what this is for, this is to make sure that the entire group is loaded in. You don't get to initialize until everybody's loaded in, because when you hit this button is actually when it does the changes and kind of gives you your inventory and stuff for that run, basically. And yeah, as we see here already, one of the perks you can actually grab as well is having a free talent to begin the run with. Is one of the permanent upgrades. I have that. We got Protector here. Not very useful. I'm not going to grab a shield. And yeah, we'll start actually with getting our picks here. I'm actually... So at the start of a run, on loop 1, we get to pick a weapon and a skill. Later on, from here onwards, basically, it is only either or. So we get to pick either or a weapon or a skill. So here, I'm going to actually grab the fire cam. I very much enjoy the fire cam. Weapon-wise, so in here, one of the things is with weapons, they are basically the base weapons, but of course as well, we don't get to add the mods onto them. This changes quite a bit, actually, what the balance between some of the weapons is, because some of the weapons that don't have mods outside of here, and we just, because of that, kind of ignore them, like the Thompson, the 1928. In here is actually pretty good. Outside of here, we would generally not use it. Here as well, the M16, I think, is the one I think I'm going to go with. Because yeah, we get 3 rifles here. Not my picks generally. I'm gonna go with the M16. It hits the hardest, and actually, yeah, the -1 mod that kind of does hurt it a little bit. Outside of here isn't an issue here. We'll grab ammo. We'll grab even pop this med pack, even though we won't actually grab it here, of course, because we're full. But if we get this rotation again, and I buy extra med pack slots, even multiple, maybe even this will still be on the ground. What we're going to go do is, yeah, we're going to go for a Nemesis run, try to get to the Nemesis as quickly as possible, which means we're going for that Nemesis heat. As we see here, for this easy room, we have 7. For this hard room, we have 3%. And that percentage needs to basically reach 100%. For that, for the fastest way to get to the Nemesis, we go the easiest rooms possible. So preferably easy or medium at worst. There will always be an easy or a medium pick in a pick. So you can always avoid doing all the hard ones. One of the things you can do, though, is, yeah, go for some harder rooms here or there to actually fight the Nemesis, or even medium rooms. Fight the Nemesis after, because here we will fight him after loop 4. But we could actually extend that a little bit, and that will actually make the Nemesis fight a little bit easier. So for your first, maybe, attempts, maybe don't do it exactly as I'm doing here, going for the fastest route, but maybe go for extending it a little bit, picking some medium rooms here or there where you get the choice between an easy and a medium, picking those mediums, maybe fighting the Nemesis after loop 5, because they don't scale up as much as we can from a loop. So we're going into the rooms. Most of the rooms, with the exception of some of the boss arenas and boilers, is 4 doors. And here solo, it'll only be 2 doors marked on loop 1. In group settings, from loop 2 onward, it would actually have 3 doors. But seeing as we're solo here, we'll always be on 1 door. I'm forgetting where my rifle is on. I was trying to swap to button 1, but it's on button 2. We'll use a little bit of our weapon, but mostly, or what, with the AR or the rifle there. We want to save a lot of it for the boss fight, though. Although from here we could kind of use it already. I'm gonna grab the obliterate here, and we'll hope to get agonizing to trigger obliterate a lot more consistently, or get some surgicals in here. And one of the things that we go for, especially is with talents, is looking at them and going like, what would and wouldn't work with a Nemesis run. So for instance, here with a Nemesis run, if I pick Pummel for one of my talents, it is 3 consecutive kills for that plus 10. Yeah, there's one Nemesis. I kill him and then I get the bonus after. Same for instance, with close and personal. I would kill him and get it after. Now, of course, for deeper runs, we would set up a little bit differently. We would much more care about setting up for the room. So Pummel there would be a decent pick, or you could definitely go with it. But for specifically the Nemesis, yeah, we don't want to have the on-kill talents, especially. We want talents that will be active at the time when we're fighting the Nemesis for the Nemesis fight. And I'm going to put a fire cam there, and I'm going to ignite it here. And yeah, we'll deal with these shield guys. The easiest way is just to shoot them in the legs. They are not protected there. You can also just shoot them through the shield eventually, but it takes way too long. And M16, not my preferred weapon here. But we'll get the job there. I'm going to take a preservation. Preservation, not, again, actually, so as we were talking, an on-kill talent, but it will help me get to the Nemesis, because preservation is one of the better healers that we have for our personal use. And we also need to get to the Nemesis. And I like having a stack or 2 of preservation. Here we're already coming in, we see both of the marked doors. And the fire cam is really good for this. We just leave it at that door. I'm going to go over here. And when this wave spawns, I will ignite it. One of the things you want to do is actually not be ADSing when you are igniting your cam, because then you will pull out the cam actually. Here though, I wouldn't have had the charge, so it wouldn't have pulled it out at all, but yeah, just as a heads up if you do have multiple charges on it, because we will actually go for multiple charges on it. Kind of considering ignited here, although actually what I would want is Trauma Eyeless Sadist, and ignited would be an option if I can get an extra yellow slot. So I might go all in on the Obliterate for here. While we only at this point have 10 crit chance, and Obliterate would have, if you don't have those permanent upgrades for crit chance, it would not be a choice at all. You have 0 crit chance at that point, unless you're using an SMG, but even in here, the stats of this, or well, once we get green ones, is tiny, so it would have 1% crit chance. It's not like the 21 that we get, you know, on high ends out of here. This, being a boss room, has 5. Not all boss rooms have 5, but yeah. So we saw this door, we saw that door, we saw that door. That means that it's going to be that door. Even though I haven't seen this door, I know it's that door because, yeah, the process of elimination. And yeah, I've saved up my M16 ammo for here. I'm not too worried about these shield guys. We'll just let them run. Because one of the things is, as a lot of people kind of talk about these guys as if they're the scariest thing in the sense, but honestly, yeah, you can play with your food. These guys, just shoot them in the legs, just yeah, and you can kite them. Now, of course, if they are there and there's like a sniper in the background and stuff like that, yeah, that can become hectic, but just either deal with them if they're a grave target like that. So for instance, here as well, I'm going to kill everything except the named, because the first named is always the worst named. The bosses are pretty heavily scaled, and especially this first one is, I think, a little bit overtuned almost. Especially in group settings, you will have all 4 players kind of unloading into them at full blast and not doing too much actually. And taking multiple mags to kind of make an impact. So we likely still have 1 sniper out there. Oh, we have a, okay, so it's a drone controller. That's why they're also not popping out. Oh, that's where they're... And yeah, well, the M16 isn't the greatest at range. Still works out for us. This being a cleaner boss, of course, they have an explosive on their back. We're going to definitely make use of that. I'm also going to, in this time that they're going to incapacitate it, make sure that I get that on target. Also, the M9, that pistol that we always get at the start of a run, is much improved than it used to be due to the changes to pistols, and actually the pistol changes and such carry, or all of the weapon changes from outside of here carry over to inside of here. Yeah, let's get our first exotic talent, and after loop 1 we always get an exotic talent. Now, as we were kind of talking about, the 3 picks that for Nemesis work best is, yeah, Plague, Bullet Hell, and Incessant Chatter. Agonizing Bite. Agonizing Bite would be my preferred pick. Plague would be decent as well. But here we get Bullet Hell. I am going to take Bullet Hell because Liberty or Death isn't that big of an increase. Incessant Chatter, we won't be able to really keep it stacked against the Nemesis fight. So not a great pick. Bullet Hell will actually help out quite a bit. And even Bullet Hell is one of the better picks in here, and especially for deeper runs. I'm going to take a skill tier here for the extra chem, for 1 extra chem, so I can chem both doors. But yeah, so they're not the best example, but Bullet Hell is actually one of the better ones. Not having to ever reload here especially is kind of important. You die in reloads quite often. Let's talk and discuss actually a bunch of skills as well here. So here on loop 2, we get to pick either a weapon or a skill. So you have to be aware which you're picking. Now here, skill-wise, none of these skills is something I'm going to pick. Because the Nemesis actually copies our skills when they can, and then for the ones that they can't, it'll be a random one. So this repair trap will actually become a shock trap. Shock and repair trap become shock trap. Shrapnel trap becomes shrapnel trap. This sniper turret would just become a sniper turret for them. This incinerator turret would be an incinerator turret for them. Also, I wouldn't be able to deploy really the sniper or this incinerator because the Nemesis can hack. So none of these skills is worth it, so we're going to just go with a weapon. I'm going to take the AUG, and here, for instance, as well, another one where outside of here, we wouldn't generally pick the AUG, but in here, that 42 rounds that it has instead of the 30 is actually worthwhile. So we'll go with that. We'll put that in our main slot. And of course, as well, we'll spend some of our currency that we have here. I think I need... Actually, yeah, so we're not at max reds or anything yet, but let's already grab that red there. And then, yeah, skill-wise, yeah, the Nemesis, overall, the better picks for it are either fire or foam chem, because they'll get the same, and they're easy to avoid overall. Which room do I prefer? Let's actually go for security. Or, 3D printing. Yeah, security's on that side. But actually, I want 3D printing. Security is a little bit too exposed. Over time, you will know the maps and stuff, and there's basically 2 main maps, so it doesn't take too long. And yeah, 2 doors marked still. If we were in a group setting, this would be the point where 3 doors start getting marked. It doesn't matter what the group size is, 2 or above. If you're 2 or 4 man, it doesn't matter. The doors will get marked. Yeah, that's the reason I kind of like the fire cam. It will take care of quite a bit, leaving us not too much to deal with. Oh, actually, as well, I realize now that yeah, bullet hell, so the 42 rounds of the of the AUG doesn't really make a difference here. But it was also the only AR in that list, so yeah, well, definitely, I prefer the ARs, even though the AUG not the best one. It is a green weapon, and yeah, the green weapon does add quite a bit of damage on top of a gray weapon, so we do want to go with those. And yeah, sticking to the easiest rooms. Yeah, so skill-wise for the Nemesis, fire chem, foam chem is really good picks. Foam is really good against them as well, as yeah, you can foam them to the ground. And, you know, CC is pretty powerful there. Fire, you can set them on fire. It isn't a long duration. It doesn't do that much damage. But yeah, still an option. Both because also it's easy to avoid, and then also for getting to the Nemesis. As you see here, fire chem, pretty powerful. Other options that you have is any of the stickies, explosive, the EMP or the fire. Any of those is decent, and also then the Nemesis gets that. And the Nemesis, you can pretty easily avoid it. That's the important part. The last ones are the Fireflies. Any of the Fireflies, Burster, Demolisher, or Blinder, will all 3 become Blinder Fireflies for the Nemesis. And yeah, blinding is annoying, but it isn't instantly. So, because of that, it is one of the ones to go for. And Blinder itself against the Nemesis is pretty useful. And actually, Demolisher is not a bad usage. Like, it's not bad to use to get to the Nemesis. Because, for instance, here on these heavies and stuff, you can just toss a Demolisher, instant use it their way, and yeah, it will blow up their backpacks and stuff. So, give you some usage. And yeah, we're going to go for Trauma here. Trauma, that blind and that bleed every 30 seconds we get. So, on headshots, we can blind. We'll use that on the Nemesis as one of our CCs. And also for getting to him, because yeah, here and there we'll be blinding. Basically, the first enemy out of a door will be blinded. Now here we have a boss room. This boss room on loop 2 is actually going to be harder than just the normal room. Later on, the boss rooms are actually easier, especially when we get multiple waves after loop 6. But one of the things is this Nemesis heat is a lot less. So here, the boss rooms is the same as a hard room, 3%. So yeah, we're not going to pick that because we want to reach the Nemesis before the end of loop 4. Or after loop 4. So we want to reach 100% before we end loop 4. Let's say it like that. And yeah, here we get 7%. One thing we can see as well is, so 4 loops, 100% divided by 4, 25% each loop. Here we're going to end. We're on 45%. Once we finish this room, we get 7% more. We're on 52. So we're above the curve when it comes to reaching the Nemesis on time. And yeah, we want to fight him after 4. That is going to be the fastest. Now here, of course, I'm kind of talking and kind of going slower and explaining stuff. But generally, around 30 minutes is what a Nemesis run takes. So it isn't too long if you do it that way. Now, of course, yeah, you could extend it to do it a little bit later. And in doing so, you would make it likely easier for yourself. And yeah, that's definitely an option. I'm going to actually, yeah, we'll take Strained here. It's a decent enough pick, even without Agonizing there. If I had Agonizing, it would be a no contest, but without Agonizing, yeah, I kind of had to think about it. We have 20% crit chance because, yeah, we have 10% base, and then I have 2 stacks of Surgical for another 10%, so 20%. That is enough to trigger a little bit of crits, and also, yeah, the Obliterate, for instance, here, because yeah, Obliterate is actually one of the heavy damage increases for this rotation. And yeah, on the boss rooms, we have whatever amount of waves we normally have +1. So in this case, it's just going to be 2, as we had 1 wave normally. That's going to keep actually for solo until loop 6. So we'll never see 2 loops if we are playing our cards right. That's also one of the reasons why you want to fight the Nemesis, preferably as early as you can. So for instance, yeah, that you don't go all the way to loop 6, because at that point you would have to deal with 2 waves per room, and that's a lot slower. But here at 1 wave per room, it goes still pretty fast. But then yeah, the boss room is always whatever normal waves, amount of normal waves +1 for the boss wave. And yeah, now that we're on loop 2, the boss is gonna be a lot easier. Also, I have things like Trauma and stuff, although yeah, Trauma's on cooldown at the time being, but we can kind of burn this guy down. I'm just gonna let him walk up into this, even though he avoids it masterfully. And one of the things that I see a lot of players do here and there is just trade with an enemy that has much more health than you and lose that trade. You don't want to do that. You want to be smarter than that. If the boss is, you know, a lot sturdier than you, which a lot of them are, use your tools. Wait maybe for Trauma to come back. Use your chem. Use your tools. Make sure to kind of deal with him smartly. And yeah, we're just going to keep to that 1 skill tier that we have. I have 2 charges on the cam. That's enough for me. I'm going to take the rest in red. Reds and blues don't carry over to the Nemesis, but what they do is that the Nemesis, especially, like in the Nemesis fight, blue cores are kind of useless. We wouldn't have enough of them to kind of make a meaningful difference, unless you're fighting them on like loop 8, where you can actually have a little bit of help by having high blue cores, but yeah, that comes at the cost of some damage as well, of course. So here, yeah, we have the choices between some weapons again and some skills. Again, we only get to pick one. And actually, yeah, as we were talking about, the blinder is actually a really good pick. So for instance, as well, a lot of the skills will become random skills for them. If they don't have that version of the skill, or they don't use it, for instance, they don't use jammer pulses or pulses in general. So this would become a fully random skill on their end. And that could be an Oxy, that could be a Seeker Mine, that could be a Bomber Drone, and all of those are kind of annoying. Sniper Turret. Revive Hive is actually one that we could pick, and what it would become for the Nemesis is a Healing Hive. Now, actually, solo Healing Hives aren't too hard to deal with, because you can always kind of kite them out of it just by putting yourself in a position wherever they put it down, even if they kind of stick in it, because quite often as well, they put it down and they just run out of it. But if they put it down and they stick in it, if you go hide in somewhere where they can't shoot you from the position that they're in, they'll come towards you eventually, and you can kind of deal with them there. But as I was talking, Blind or Firefly is actually very useful against them, and we'll take that. And yeah, meaning we won't take another weapon, but I'm kind of okay with this AUG and this M16 for now. We'll have the choice to actually take 2 slots if we want to. The question is, do I want to? And for now, actually, the answer is no. I'm going to actually take a med pack and actually 1 extra ammo. And yeah, that med pack, I used one actually in that last fight, so it's actually handy that I left that one on the ground. And that's the reason why we generally always open all of them. Yeah, so we're on 52%, so we're above the curve, basically. And yeah, we'll keep going towards the Nemesis here.
Entering new location. Difficulty rating medium.
And still just 2 doors marked, so I see this door and that door being marked, so yeah, we don't need to look for any more. Still 1 wave, fire cam, and yeah, I'm not gonna, although I don't have the extra cam, but yeah, don't ADS, and then, you know, we didn't get that many over there, but that's fine, we'll clean up ourselves. I'm actually gonna use M16. Just to save some AR ammo there. And then sometimes you do have to reroll. So here, none of these picks would be something I would want. We'll reroll there. Trauma, 1 tier of it is enough. You get 2 seconds reduction per tier. So later, much later on, loop 30 and above, you might start taking some traumas and taking this down to its max of 12 seconds. But for here, yeah, not really. But also, every time we reroll, the price goes up. So this is whatever we get here, I'm going to take. And yeah, we'll take that ignited here. And yeah, we're going to stick to the easiest room. Although, for instance, here, if you are wanting to go Nemesis, like you don't want to per se fight the Nemesis on loop 4, because if you fight him after loop 5, he's a lot easier, and you're still at 1 wave, so it isn't too bad. But then here, it would be a choice of like, oh, that one has 2 reds and 1 yellow. This one has 1 red, 1 yellow, 1 blue. So we could pick that one if we wanted to delay the Nemesis, actually. Here, we don't, though. We want to fight him after loop 4 if we can, so we'll go in as is. And yeah, in the Descent, it is very important to kind of the main lessons of the game really hold true here, especially if you haven't really learned how to position, how to fight enemies that are stronger than you smartly. And yeah, there, for instance, the perfect outcome of the 2 cams, the entire wave got destroyed in 1 go. We'll take Eyeless here as well, extra damage to blinded enemies, because yeah, we'll blind them with the trauma, of course, and then also as well, Eyeless will trigger here and there as well for the waves along the way. Yeah, we are also seeing some of those supply stations. Those are basically shops. You can buy refill of ammo, you can buy special ammo here and there. We're going to avoid that for Nemesis Run. We don't want to use our currency for that. We want slots and we want rerolls. That's really the only things that we're going to be buying until much, much later. The one thing you could look in there for, especially on rotations which are worse than this, because keep in mind as well, here I'm running this on Envy, which is overall the best rotation for the Nemesis, but also if you're going to go do the Nemesis, maybe for your first time or such, do it on Envy. It'll come around again. Rat or Envy are pretty simple when it comes to the Nemesis Run. Others can be a little bit more annoying because, yeah, for instance, trauma makes a big difference, and trauma is in both Wrath and Envy, as well as both of these are pretty high on their damage. Here as well, although actually, I'll take the string too, just to not reroll. So yeah, we're on 71%. We have done 2 rooms so far. Oh, actually 3 rooms actually. So this room will give us 7. So we'll be at 78%. So on actually the next loop, we can have, we just need 1 easy for the Nemesis. So we're kind of very likely to see that. And because of that, we're kind of likely to see the Nemesis after loop 4. But yeah, knowing the basics of the game, because a lot of the game is about positioning, being smart about how you position. Because for instance here, I have these 2 doors. I'm going to actually position here. I'm going to pie the room through here, basically. I'm going to chem that, of course. Finish off that guy. I'm going to be aggressive. So one of the things that a lot of enemies can't deal with, the AI in general, can't deal well with, is actually if you are fast moving, if you are aggressive. That actually helps quite a lot. Now, of course, that can come up with a price. I'll be honest here. The last run that we did here, I might have died a little bit. If I had a slot for Sadist, I would take Sadist here, but instead we'll take another Obliterate. And that was because I was a little bit too aggressive. An exploding barrel that I missed exploded next to me, and I got downed because of that. So yeah, we started up and over again. Although I was, of course, as well here, a lot of my attention is going to talking and not so much playing well. So we see 1 door over there. This boss room again is going to be 2 doors. So 1 door over there. So I'm going to actually set up my fire cams for this first wave. I'm actually going to push a little closer and kind of go from the side here. We'll ignite, hopefully getting most of it. Oh, we did. And fire cam is very strong because of that. But it won't be against the Nemesis. And also with the Nemesis, I need to watch out to not get hit by the fire cam, of course, because it will destroy me. But the thing is with Nemesis as well is they won't ignite it, they will fire it. So unless you are firing and, you know, when it lands at your feet, because even if he direct impacts you, the health gate will save you. And yeah, no special ammo for you, Mr. Brown. And yeah, now we see kind of the difference between loop 1 and loop 3 in the bosses. Where in loop 1 we had to unload multiple mags into him. Now that we've made good picks and kind of have some good damage, we get to have pretty quick kills there. After each loop, after the boss fight, there's a chance that you'll get an extra exotic talent pick. And actually getting some of them pretty early is very valuable, but yeah, it's very rare to get actually multiple before loop 4. Sometimes you do though. I've had actually Nemesis fights where yeah, you have all 3 exotics by loop 4, and that will make it so much easier, especially if you can get good ones like in here. And that's one of the strengths of especially Envy. Like most of the exotics are pretty good. The worst 3 that you might even get, you would just pick Liberty out of those, and that's still valuable enough. And yeah, on to loop 4. And here again, I could use a yellow. We don't have enough for 2 unless we skip. So one of the options that you always have as well is if you go to our skills here. So weapons-wise, again, nothing I want to really pick out of this. Skill-wise, I'm kind of set. I could actually pick a skip here, and I might actually do this. Yeah, let's pick a skip here. And what that will allow me to do is get 250 credits from that. And now we have just enough, because we need 2,800 for a red slot and a yellow slot. Now, of course, I haven't bought the armor kits upgrades. I do want to have all 4 armor kits for the Nemesis fight. What that means now, though, is that actually at the end of this loop, I'll have to buy the armor kit upgrade. And then, because at the Nemesis, we'll only get one extra slot. So I'll have to actually buy the refill for 250 at the shop. And yeah, we do want to get ammo, of course. Never forget ammo, even though I quite often do. And yeah, we just need 1 easy room. Because yeah, 1 easy room will put us at 85%. From then on, we could actually even pick medium rooms because we're guaranteed the Nemesis. So here, if I have to pick between boilers and workshop, I'm going to pick workshop. Boilers has, as the only room, 5 doors without being boss room. And that makes it that I kind of dislike it. Even though only 2 doors will be marked, but also this room is so much easier as we can kind of set up like this. And yeah, still just 1 wave. We will not see 2 waves. Because at this point as well, we're guaranteed the Nemesis. So, because at worst, we'll still get medium picks. We just need 3 more medium picks to get to Nemesis.
Console active.
I know, it's okay to be, especially if it's the last enemy remaining, it's okay to be pretty aggressive against them. I have enough for 1 reroll. I have enough for 1 reroll because yeah, the second one would be more expensive. I might actually take that reroll, and I was hoping actually, yeah, for Sadist especially, because Sadist as well, we would trigger it with our trauma, even on the Nemesis, so we can benefit from it. And from here on out, we could even pick, oh no, actually we couldn't. We could risk it and pick a hard room, but we would need another easy room, so yeah, let's not.
Room selected. Difficulty rating medium.
But yeah, the descent is especially as well. It takes away a lot of benefits that people are kind of used to. If you're used to running, for instance, striker with a bunch of blue cores and stuff, and trying to make life easy for yourself, because honestly, heroic isn't even that much of a challenge, even if you set up that way. Or for instance, even more so a tech tank. The Sand, of course, kind of takes all those advantages away, forces you to kind of play with maybe weapons you're not familiar with, talents you may not be familiar with. And that means that, yeah, it is a good test of how well you can deal with change. I'm going to take a reroll here as well. Although it didn't pay off. I'll take the eyeless. One of the things is, so yeah, eyeless, one of the reasons I don't want to stack this, the first step is 25%. Or 20%. The second step and onward is only 5%. So a lot of the talents they added in later kind of work by that principle. Same for Rifleman. Rifleman with the first step is 5%. Every subsequent step is 1%. You can look all of these up as well. There's many sources, so you can kind of look through them and kind of figure out which picks. Because sometimes you might think that, you know, just because eyeless is 20% on the first step, there might be 20% on all of them. Because, for instance, some of the older ones are set up that way. For instance, obliterate per step just goes up a certain amount. Surgical is 5% per step and stuff like that. Same for Allegro, it's 7% per step. So there's some inconsistency there that you just kind of have to know. But over time, you'll know them. I'm gonna put the cam there again, and yeah, I'm kind of putting them at the edge of that door. The fire cams do, of course, go through door boundaries. If this was a fire cam, it wouldn't. Fire cams don't have that trait, so they would only hit enemies that are on the outside. The stickies. Same for the explosive stickies. So when the door opens and you ignite it, if the enemies aren't outside of the door boundary yet, they wouldn't get hit by it. But yeah, fire cam bypasses that, and because of that, is actually one of the better picks for here. Although for the Nemesis fight itself, foam would actually be preferred. I think I might take actually, because normally we have these 4, and then we basically have 2 open picks. So you could go either. There are multiple choices that can go in here. Overall, the best one for deeper runs is to go critical and usually pummel with that, although critical vigilance as well is an option. But you got a rifleman, also an option. You can kind of pick out of those 4. Here, though, I'm going to actually, for here, just pick rifleman. As we were talking about, the first step of rifleman is actually pretty good at 5%. For subsequent steps, not so much. But we'll just take 1 stack of it at most. We're about to meet the Nemesis anyway, so we just want to fill up those slots. Because, yeah, we did actually invest into getting these slots. Might as well actually fill them up. And if we can, preferably as much as possible with separate multipliers. So here, I could pick the easy room, but actually I'm going to pick the medium room for just that little bit more credits.
Entering new room. Difficulty rating medium.
Because, yeah, we just need 5%. We're guaranteed the Nemesis.
Hostiles constructing.
So there is no per se reason to not do that. And yeah, that chem didn't land
Constructing
well.
hostile combatant.
One of the things as well is actually to set up directly on a door. So one of the best things you can do is actually set up on a door that you can shoot into the door as they spawn. Because from the sides, the enemies, actually, the door isn't real for them. So if you are on the side of the door and you're trying to shoot them, but the doors are open and blocking your shots, they're not blocking the enemy's shots. So that's why, for instance, yeah, if for that door, I was set up here and they come out of the door of course opens, the door would be open, I would be just shooting at the back of the door, they would be shooting through the door. The doors aren't real for enemies. So generally what you want to do is, as long as you're powerful enough, like if you're not powerful enough, you kind of need to take some distance, especially later on, that can be a thing. But for instance, one of the things we always go for, especially if we're doing it in 3-man or 4-man, every person takes a door and you just set up on the door and shoot into it. Because also, until they come through that door boundary, they can't fire. So any enemies you can kill on that side before they actually come over, that will, yeah, prevent them from shooting at you, of course. So that is actually a very important thing to remember of just trying to actually catch them before they really can't even do any damage. I might take a reroll here because a surgical, while nice, is not really what I want. More of. I'll take one more. Yeah. Didn't get anything useful out of it. But I should just take one perpetuation because this will actually apply to the out of these at least. If we can't have a sadist, because I would have loved a sadist and I would have loved maybe one stack of vigilance. And this vendor, just to show it as well, is just, yeah, refills and then also some special ammo. Now, one of the things I could go for here, and I have enough currency, and I might actually just do that. Although I'll likely forget during the Nemesis fight. Although, as well, likely the Nemesis fight will be over before it becomes a thing. Incendiary ammo works really well against the Nemesis, so I'm going to actually put some in my pistol. That way I can carry it into that fight, because I won't be using my pistol much here. And we'll disable them for a few seconds. So, and also we have ignited to kind of trigger off of that. So we'll invest into that. And in here there is 5 doors as well. So one of the things is through here, through this little gap, we can actually see that door. So yeah, it's going to be 2 doors marked, and it's going to be 2 waves in total. Now I'm going to go find the last door, so it's not that one, so it's got to be this one. And yeah, I ignited my chem. It didn't catch anyone. No. This lady just wanted to be part of that door.
I'll set up the turret now. Turret's no good here.
Sniper up there is always a very annoying spot. Oh, there's 2. That explains a lot. Already actually gonna put a fire cam over there. And try to find this last one. Agonizing as well, giving away the positions of enemies is always very handy. He'll likely be back here. Do not blow. Yeah. And there actually, some of the enemies were shooting me through the wall there. Anyway, we'll use our blind the firefly, that medic. They studied medicine for several years just to run into a fire.
I'm waiting.
There. And yeah, we didn't get a second exotic, but that's also fine. We have one good exotic, which is Bullet Hell. Bullet Hell will help out actually against the Nemesis fight because you can just, while they're foamed or fire or, you know, blinded, you can continue to fire because usually you would just put out basically what your damage per mag would be once you hit the reload. Basically, that will likely be more than enough for the Nemesis to kind of get out of it. So actually here, I don't have enough to buy 2 medpack slots and then also a refill. So what I'll do instead, actually, yeah, I'll buy 1. We have 1 here as well, so yeah, we'll just have 3 medpacks. Preferably I would have 4, but yeah, we used up a bunch on rerolls. I'll check as well here what our special ammo availability is, and I might actually put some hollow point ammo into my... even though we don't have sadist, this hollow point ammo as well, in the same way that hollow point ammo from OD, because there's that hollow point ammo, would work. We also gain a little bit of extra damage. So we have 90 rounds of that, a little bit of upfront damage, and we'll try to just burn down the Nemesis if we can. Now this depends as well on where they kind of spawn. You can kind of manipulate their spawns a little bit, but it seems very inconsistent, at least for me. And yeah, we won't watch the video. The tactic here, I use this as well, usually in solo nowadays as well, is just to go and take the high ground there. It's just the most consistent. And I should put 2 fire cams here. I'm gonna try and get them to spawn right there. Not spawn behind me.
System malfunctioning.
Because they sometimes do seem to be that they spawn in your line of vision, but might also have something to do with proximity. Anyway, we'll just let them come. In the meantime as well, our disrupt will fare off. Now what the fight against the Nemesis especially is a fight against an enemy that is much stronger. So this is the same for hunters, this is the same for, you know, fighting rogues and stuff. Anyway, those fire cams, they went all the way back there. They didn't really do anything useful against us. And even though, you know, it's shooting to ignite them, that's kind of fine. We just want them to come closer, so we're just going to hold position. Let them come. Because if I engage them here, they have the benefit. I'm out of sight of optimal. They have lost actually sight of where we are. They'll come to investigate over here eventually. We'll give them the time. But yeah, a lot of these fights are especially about using some of the tools that we have. So we have a blind of firefly, we have some trauma, we have some fire on our pistol. All those 3 are tools which will buy us some little bit of time for us to hit this enemy pretty hard. So once they're kind of a little bit closer, I'm not gonna stay upright while they're fire camming like that. I'll send the blinder over. Because you don't need to, just because you can fire at an enemy, doesn't mean you have to. So for instance there, I could have maybe finished them off, but also they could have fired back and murdered me. I'll take that blind. I'll let them fire their cams off again. And done. Be smart about how you fight enemies that are stronger than you. So for instance as well, in like the real world, we can also use tools like PFE and such. But here, just using the tools available there, although I got somewhat lucky as well. I got a blinder firefly, we did get fire ammo along the way, and as you saw, the flame ammo, actually pretty useful, makes them pop up, gives you a few seconds of freely firing at them before they fire back, because I didn't even take a hit there at all in that Nemesis fight. This Nemesis run took us 42 minutes, which is a little bit longer than it normally would, because yeah, we're chatting it up here and there. But we will actually exit it out here, and let's discuss, as yeah, you can also, for just should as well, you can just leave the send by just using the social menu and just leaving here. But yeah, let's go to a conclusion. And yeah, as we come out of there, we see actually the prize that we oftentimes go for with Descent, which is reconstructed caches, which is actually, if you aren't aware, these can contain, or well, they do contain named blueprints, and yeah, you will eventually have them all. I, in my case, already have all of them. If you don't have all of them, it would show 2 items on the right side here, 1 gray one as well, meaning that you will get a blueprint from it. Here's well, I got, this is 5 times XP, so yeah, we got 5 levels out of it, which for 40 minutes is not the greatest, of course. If we were to go and do some activities and such with 5 directives, yeah, we could very much outdo that, but it's still better than, for instance, because if we kind of extrapolate that to maybe an hour, we would have maybe like 6-7 levels. That's still better than the 3 from Countdown, for instance. So level-wise, it is also decent, especially when you go very deep with it. And of course, as well, this was just showing Nemesis. We could actually just continue on after Nemesis. That's actually beneficial as well. That will get you more NSA tech. That's also how I have a decent chunk of NSA tech saved up by going deeper runs here and there. Envy is also very good for going deep runs, but yeah, here also very good for just a Nemesis run. And of course, as well, we got some NSA tech out of it, but a Nemesis run is about 80-ish, depending on, well, we got a boss room there. If we took that boss room, although if we took that boss room, we would have likely, actually, no, we would have been safe because we had enough, no, actually we wouldn't. We would have actually had Nemesis after loop 5 if we had that. So we had to do an extra loop there. But of course, those reconstructed caches, especially if you go deep, you can save up a lot of NSA tech and buy reconstructed caches. And it isn't too hard to get the full set, and also, of course, getting the permanent upgrades. Because keep in mind that for this whole run as well, I have all the permanent upgrades. They make a decent difference. Having that free talent, having that 4 talent choice, having the extra credits, having 10% crit chance so I could take obliterate right away and such. Those make a difference, so do invest in those. But even going maybe more so in a group setting or something to a 30 and getting those unlocks done, that will already get you most of those unlocked, and then from there you can kind of grind it out further. And yeah, I quite enjoy actually Descent. I know it isn't everybody's favorite, but I very much do enjoy it. And I have the badges to show for it as well. Also, as well, in here already, we'll discuss one more thing, because, yeah, while we have, of course, from previous seasons, although not from all seasons, I don't have the tier 1 from, for instance, Broken Wings there, but I do have it for some of the other seasons. And those tier patches, these are given for, tier 4 is given for loop 10, and then tier 3 for loop 20, tier 2 for loop 30, completing loop 30, and then tier 1 for completing loop 40. The Nemesis patch for this season as well as, yeah, up to this point, I haven't actually in this season gone past 10, but specifically as well, I've gone and gotten the Nemesis patch. The Nemesis patch is still tied to getting the Nemesis after loop 8, which means getting at most 7 medium room picks and trying to only get hard picks up until the end of 7, because, yeah, once you reach into 8, it doesn't matter, then you can. But having 7 medium picks is, at most, is not something you have control over. So quite often runs will fail as you try to do that. So likely it will take multiple attempts, and you have to basically do as many hard rooms or just all hard rooms and just only drop down to medium when you have no choice. Because sometimes it will be a medium and an easy room and you can't pick hard. So yeah, that's how you get the patches. And getting these patches has become a seasonal thing, or well, per season we try to go and get them. Because yeah, I do enjoy going deep, especially in group settings. As you can see, for instance, here as well. Puppeteers, I didn't do it, but then for instance, Shade of Red and the last season we did. And I do quite enjoy Descent. And of course, as well, you get the comms and such from that. As well, also here to explain what is happening with the comms, because a lot of people aren't understanding this one, but also it's very poorly explained. If we looked at this project before we went in, it would show that I'm going to get 7 comms. Now, of course, actually coming out of it, I got 0 comms. The reason for that is that I have all of the comms from Descent, so we are not going to get any more, of course, because there aren't any more to get. What is happening currently is actually on the first week of this season, the first 7 comms were picked as the, I don't know actually if that's the same in this order, but from the release order, the first 7 were actually there. So if you were missing any of those, if you did the project, you would get whatever one you were missing. It is basically specific ones. It isn't just randomly 7 comms. So this second week, it has been the second 7. So likely this pattern will continue for the rest of the season, meaning that, yeah, you can catch up. Doing in this season, every weekly Descent will get you all of the comms, most likely. Because likely it will go into the third set of 7. But yeah, it is basically if you're missing any of those specific comms. It isn't just any of the comms, and it doesn't surface well because it just shows collectible, of course. If it showed the name of these, you could actually cross-reference if you're missing them or not. And yeah, that's been confusing a lot of people. That's also the reason why you can only really do it on one character and get some comms. If you do it on the second character, it's still the same comms, but now, of course, it's account shared, so you wouldn't get them anymore. But yeah, I wanted to explain that as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video of us talking about our dear friend Descent and Nemesis running. As yeah, I've spent quite a lot of time here in Descent, and I've quite enjoyed all my time in there. And hey, hopefully in this I've given you some tools to, if you haven't tried it ever out, to maybe go and try it out. Do so on Envy. I would say if you have the option now. Of course, Envy, as we saw there, is going to end after this video, or even by the time this video is up, but it will come around again. Rat is a second best choice. Gluttony, Greed, and Sloth, I wouldn't per se pick them for Nemesis runs. Sloth, for instance, is very good for deeper runs, but not per se for Nemesis runs. And yeah, when you see those around, maybe give it a try. And yeah, as you saw here, doing it solo can be perfectly fine. You don't need per se a group. In a group setting though, it's actually, I find it generally easier to do it in a group setting, especially if you're not doing 4-man, but doing 2 or 3-man. The scaling for 2 and 3-man seems a lot more agreeable for, especially if you're going in with 2 competent people, of course. Now, of course, if you're going in with, with, you know, just somebody that isn't that great, yeah, that's of course you will have to carry them. But yeah, getting through the Descent and getting through the Nemesis, I quite enjoy it. And it's all about kind of having a core understanding of the game, I feel. It is very much stripped back. It is very much the basics of the game. You have to understand those and execute on that. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please do any and all of the algorithm things down below, as it does help out. So I'll do that little bit of shilling here. And for future videos, we're going to actually, we were going to do the macro video, but we'll shifted that one up because Envy was available. But yeah, that's going to be the next one. And also we'll likely, of course, be heading towards some April foolishness and maybe even as well that project that I've been kind of hinting at for a while now. So yeah, I hope you join me for those. But as always, have a good night.